going to quickly regret this interview.
No, I won't. Thanks for carving out some time tonight. It's kind of annoying, but I appreciate it.
No worries. I had a very long day on site with a client, so it's kind of nice to like wind my brain down like this. So yeah.
That's cool. So, all right, I'll formally just kind of introduce what we're doing. So, guys, welcome to Unfiltered with Corey Keating. I have Tracy Jepson on. I'm excited to have this conversation with Tracy. I won't step on her introduction. I'll let her provide a little background and context into who she is. But Tracy, just to give everyone some context to how we know each other, we've become friends kind of through business conversations. And MCO Advisors is looking into and exploring working with Tracy and her firm going forward. So I'm excited to get to know Tracy a little bit more, have a casual conversation, have some fun, and dig in on some of the business stuff and kind of bullshit on some of the other stuff, the fun stuff. So with that, Tracy, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, who you are, what you're up to.
Oh, I make it really quick. So yeah, Tracy Jepson. I am the CEO of Kantex Financial. We provide accounting services and accounting advisory to financial advisors, service-based providers, tons of realtors, a lot of like boutique brokerages, that kind of thing. And so we work a lot with the financial industry, which is how I think you and I actually originally connected. So we've been in business just over 6 years and kind of rebranded at the beginning of this year. So marketing is actually like the forefront of what we're kind of thinking about as we're growing and expanding. But we work with clients all across the country. We've been virtual since like before virtual was cool. So we feel like we have it down, and this whole like Zoom scenario for the last year hasn't interrupted anything we've done. In fact, actually, it's expanded our services and who we're able to work with tremendously. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I'm going to dig into some of that because I've got some things that I've put in my notes that I want to ask you. But now that we've got the formalities out of the way, we can cut through all that shit and have some fun and talk. And I've got a vodka soda going, so I'm going to just
am I allowed to like, have my wine?
There's no rules. It's 9 o'clock on the East Coast here, Tracy. I think it's 8 o'clock where you are. So
yep.
We're recording this in the evening. However you're watching, listening, whatever. We're hanging out. This is not noon happy hour. And if it was, don't judge.
I don't really, it's not a judgmental thing. So
no,
yeah, we're good.
Yeah, not you, everybody else. All right. Golf yesterday. Let's get that out of the way.
Yes. So it's been raining here for 3 weeks. And we don't have an arc at the country club. So in order to play golf, we went to Topgolf yesterday, and that was a lot of fun. We actually took friends that had never been before. And like, so I lived in Virginia for, 6 years, 5.5 years. And it was where one of the original Topgolfs was. And like Topgolf, like originally it was not all fancy, and it was always multi-leveled, and it was always in the ground, that kind of thing. But it was like a dive bar. And it was pretty ghetto. It was definitely where we had like happy hours and that kind of thing. And I think they've really classed it up. So we went and had a lot of fun. And I like to play a little game called I Win. And that's usually how that goes. But yesterday that was not the case, but we still had a really good time. It was packed, but it has been raining for, I think, 3 weeks straight.
Yeah, it's well, that's funny. I don't know about where, where are you? You're in Wichita?
I mean, Topeka, Kansas.
Topeka. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it hadn't rained all of May, and then we just got like 4 days of deluge during Memorial Day weekend, which was a total bummer, but oh well.
Oh, that would really put a damper on it. I guess we've kind of anticipated it and expected it. Like we've been golfing over the last couple of weeks, and it has like coming home just like completely covered in mud. Like you hit a fairway shot and you're just sprayed in the face. It was really awesome. So
yeah, that's enjoyable. We'll dig in. I want to dig more into the golf thing, but I didn't know you guys were in business for 6 years. That's news to me.
Yeah. So, well, technically I've been in business for 6 years. So the way I started my firm was, I think it was back in 2014. My husband and I went through like Dave Ramsey's program and started getting out of debt. And we figured out that we didn't have a spending problem. We had an income problem. I was working for a nonprofit at the time. And if you've ever heard me on one of my nonprofit soapboxes, they just don't pay very well. So we went through the process of getting out of debt. And this is actually something I don't tell anybody. I took a part-time job at Buffalo Wild Wings. So I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know, 32 years old working at Buffalo Wild Wings. They paid me to change channels and give out beer samples. Like that was my entire role. I did not serve people. I didn't bartend. Like I was there to just chat and be social.
Why do you not tell people that? Is that out of like?
No, I guess I couldn't care. Like it was a blast.
Yeah.
I loved every minute of it because I mean, who doesn't want to just sit around and watch sports, talk about sports and give people free beer? Like it was the coolest job ever. But I think it took so much time away. It had a really, really terrible point in our marriage because of it. Like it was a really bad situation. So maybe that's why I don't like bring it up, but it was a means to an end. And I thought, well, if I need to actually be home, how can I start working and making money? And so I threw an ad out on Craigslist, and within 24 hours, I had 3 clients to do bookkeeping for. And that quickly grew. And in about 6 months, I was going to my boss asking if I could go part-time. And I made a business case for it. And she said, absolutely. So kind of progressed that way, continued to grow and scale. And at that point, I was working like 80 hours a week by myself and knew that that was not sustainable. But I also realized that I had exceeded my full-time take-home pay. So I went to them again and I said, hey, how about I bring you on as a client? And I'll work from home permanently and stop by your office like once a week. And so they did that. And so it kind of just really spiraled from there, and then really started growing my team about 2 years ago. And then when we rebranded, I brought on a partner in January. So it's kind of taken on a life of its own.
Accounting's always been your thing.
Yeah. Always been my thing.
But entrepreneurship wasn't.
No, but I don't know. I say that it wasn't, but like when I was in college, I did like weird little like direct marketing stuff. So like I sold like purses, or, you know, I always wanted to make extra money. I always knew that there was something inside me that was like, this isn't enough. Like a paycheck just was kind of boring. And I don't really like being told what to do. So that was kind of the other thing that entrepreneurship kind of made sense, because I don't know. Like I like to be able to do what I want. I like to take off work and golf on Tuesdays or not work on Fridays. And they don't really appreciate that in corporate much. So
you dabbled, you've just kind of always dabbled. And then I love that though. That's like, instead of the standard, like I'm leaving corporate to do my own thing, you just wanted to expand the amount of hours you had in the day with your family. And by doing so, stumbled in. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just knew that being gone for a full-time 40-hour-a-week job plus an additional 30 hours, making just frankly shit for money, like $13 an hour. Like anybody who's going through a side hustle, like trying to get out of debt, like more power to you. Like any money is good money. So I don't think that was a bad thing, and it taught a lot of lessons. So I don't look at it as like a downfall. But I certainly wouldn't want to sustain that. And so I was like, what am I already doing that I'm really good at that people will pay for? And it just made a ton of sense. But yeah, Craigslist also probably not where I would seek out clients today, but it was a start. So
yeah, but I mean, Craigslist then is today's Upwork, right?
Probably. Yeah. And I think Upwork was even a thing back then. But again, I think so many people that I could go on for this too. I think so many people that hire on Upwork, like I'm sure there's some really excellent like freelancers on Upwork, but the amount that people expect to pay going through a service like that, they want to pay the cheapest amount possible. And I 1000% believe in anything in life. Like you get what you pay for. Like if you want just shit service, fine. But I also don't appreciate freelancers going off, like let's say accounting services. If somebody wants to find a bookkeeper on Upwork, awesome. I'm unhappy with that bookkeeper who's willing to charge $150 for a month of service when I know that is one, unacceptable work, most likely. And it damages the entire industry when you just like lowball your prices like that. So Upwork, just in general, I have a real issue with the way that it's done.
Do you have empathy towards anyone doing that who's trying to get themselves going like you were on Craigslist? Or are you blanket statementing the whole thing?
No, I think I'm going to blanket statement the entire thing. And I do, but I think something that's different about me, like I don't believe in competition. Like I am parts of several like accounting groups, and when other accountants or people will come to me and say like, me and Tracy, how did you do it? How did you build the thing? Whatever. I will give them the complete blueprint. Like, here it is. Here's how to go do it. Here's how to go build it. Also raise your prices. I want people in our industry to be amazing, and I want them to get education, and I want them to have great clients, and I want them to charge what they're worth because our services are important. I think that was proven tenfold in the last year. Like people realized, oh, without these numbers and without my books being done, I can't apply for PPP. I don't even know what that is, or who am I going to for these kinds of things? Like we have value. And when we as an industry allow other people to charge so little, QuickBooks Online bookkeeping right now is probably the number one thing like making me the most insane because it's so inexpensive and we charge a fortune to clean it up and it never fails. Like we know the product that comes out of that and it's very sad. So yeah, I will say the entire industry, fine, go on there, but charge what you're worth. Don't go lowballing things just to get started. Also because you don't want clients like that. Like you don't want people who are cheap because if they're cheap from the beginning, they're going to be cheap all the way through.
I'm trying to think this through, like in real time here. Like, I'm trying to think about how I think about canned competition in marketing. Like, there's a million companies out there that charge whatever for canned content, and then I try to think of like how I feel about them, and I think their product is shit, but I'm not necessarily mad at them because I feel like there's a market for that.
Yeah, but is that what you want people to like? Is that the baseline? Is that like the general expectation and you're now exceeding it? Or is that like
I think
we're the baseline and those people are underneath? Like that is the part I find unacceptable. Like to me, I don't want a baseline. Like I think that's a terrible place.
What about someone who just like, I think those I don't want to call them bottom feeders. I think those people charging the prices you don't like, you don't want to work with them anyways, right?
No, and I also think they don't know better. So I do think that there's education that, again, within your industry, which is why I don't think that, like, I don't look at other accountants as competition, but I'm always going to go to them and encourage them to raise their prices and give them reasons why. And if they say, oh, well, people push back, like, I'm going to ask questions like, hey, how can we get you to charge more? I don't care what happens to their bank account. Like I want everyone to be successful, but I don't want somebody coming to us and like sticker shock every time we give out a proposal. And it happens.
I hear that. Yeah.
But in general, like I want all things to be good. And I think when people are new, they think they have to give away free specifically to like friends and family. Like, oh, I started a marketing company. Cool. Can I have a free logo? Well, no, fuck you. You can't have a free logo. I just started it. Like, I just told you I started a business. You don't get to ask for free. Like, checks are how you get a logo. Like, this isn't giving away stuff. And I think women specifically have the biggest challenge with this in any industry. It kind of just is different from a gender standpoint on how that works. But no, I think people just don't know better and they don't know how to charge. That's, I think when I look in like freelance groups, and again, I go in there a lot of times just to give advice, all these questions of, well, how much would you charge or what would you charge? Okay, let's stop asking other people what they charge and figure out what you want to charge and how much does it actually cost you to do it? What does your lifestyle require? It's probably different than Jane over here or Bob over here. Like, people don't know how to do pricing. And so we teach people how to do pricing because again, I think they should raise their prices.
No, I love where your head's at with it. I want to ask you more about it. Like, do you believe in this across all industries?
Yeah, in general. Here's an example. I used to live out in the DC area. When I would go to the salon, and this is just for where I went, it was probably $400 every time I went. The guy was great. He was like, I loved that experience. The whole experience of the thing, the assistants, him, the whole thing. My gal today in Topeka, Kansas is better than that guy was, has more education, more training. And I have begged her for years to raise her prices. And when she charges me, I tip her to the level of what I was paying him, and she cannot figure it out ever why I would do this. And I just believe in paying for value. Like, she's so good, but I also know that by doing that and paying her what she's worth, when I want to get on her calendar, it's a whole lot easier. And when I paid her during COVID, it was easy to get that first appointment when salons open back up. Like,
but she's afraid of
so good.
Yeah, but she's afraid of losing 10 people in Topeka that aren't willing to pay it.
Yeah, fine. Find 5 people who will pay 3 times as much, and you don't need the 10 people who won't. You don't need mass numbers of people. You need the right people who pay the right amount.
I don't disagree.
This is how people like grow businesses are like, oh, I only need 50 more clients. I'm like, do you need 50 clients or do you need 2 that will pay
that's a
what 50
mind frame
clients
game,
would pay?
though, isn't it? Like, that's what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
back to. Like, you charging what you're worth is going to attract that clientele versus the other person down the street charging half of what you're worth or their worth is going to attract a different clientele that you don't want to work with anyway.
No, and I can say that when we charge what we do, and I don't think it's expensive, but people show up to meetings. People don't cancel on us. People get us their stuff in time because there's an expectation that that's the way that we work. And I can tell you, somebody charging $150 a month or whatever it is that they're doing, you might be lucky to have financials once a quarter or once every 6 months. Like, they can't bring on the number of clients that they need to make that kind of like good money, and they're gonna be buried in work.
Yeah.
Like, people shouldn't want to work with people like that. They should know that that person's not making a living charging nothing. And we just shouldn't, I just don't think that people should continue to perpetuate that. Like, I understand wanting to save money. I think it can be saved in other places that are not services.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I have a hard disagreement or agreement with you.
It's probably the wine talking, but it is how I
No, I don't think it is. I believe in it.
I really believe like that man, people should make money. Like, you're out there to give your best to somebody, and you're like, in your case, you guys are promoting people's brands or creating them and giving all you have in value to these people. People should pay for that. Like, you can't give it away. Like, you guys give a lot of stuff away. Like, I think your guys' like content just in general is like giving so much away. I cannot imagine what like your one-on-one personal services, knowing how much you give away for free every single week just in content.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're also trying to figure this out in real time, and I don't like having a lot of gated stuff because I think the magic is made in these conversations, and you've got to pay for this conversation, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm not going to give someone an hour of my time to get into the weeds with them, but I'll give you 30,000 level foot advice because I just think that stuff it's out there anyways. I might be able to synthesize it a little better than the next guy, but whatever.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, but I think people provide value, and yeah, you just get what you pay for.
What about the Kia? What about the Kia and the Mercedes and the Honda, right? And all the cars in the middle. There's a market for one, market for the middle, market for the others.
But I think I think that kind of goes back to a mentality of what somebody wants to drive. Now, yes, there is certainly a case for what can somebody afford. Like, our 21-year-old daughter is not going to be able to drive what we drive. Like, she doesn't make the money. She doesn't have that. I mean,
nor should she.
Her lifestyle doesn't support that. Like, could she go out and get a loan and do that? Yes. Thankfully, we've taught her otherwise. But like, there's going to be levels in your life. But also, I could go out and drive a Mercedes, and I choose not to. Where do my values lie? Like, my values are, I would rather go golf at our country club.
Overpay the hairdresser.
Or overpay the hairdresser. Like, I don't really care what some guy at a stoplight has an opinion about what I'm driving. Like, if it gets me to A to B and I'm safe, like, this is maybe not the best conversation for me because I'm a little bit spoiled and I like cars. Like, that's kind of a fun thing for me. But in general, I think that comes down to how much are you driving? What do you want? Like, is it comfort level? Are you sitting in DC or LA traffic for 4.5 hours every day and you want to feel like you are in the lap of luxury? Then like, go buy the fucking Mercedes. Like, amen to that. But you're also going to completely devalue it by driving piles of miles and that kind of thing. So I think it comes down to a personal preference on that. Like, yes, there's a market for lots of things, but I don't necessarily think that, I don't feel that that's the same of like a service kind of thing, because
I don't think it is either. It's in fairness.
I think they're different.
Yeah, it for sure is. I'm just pushing you on it to see how far I can figure this out. Let's move on to something else. Okay. Was it you that posted like 3 months ago? You shared something about working with people remotely with their finances and getting so much deeper with them than like one you ever would have thought, or two that people expect. Like, you're talking with literally complete strangers remotely you've never met, and you're talking into the weeds on their finances.
Yeah. That was me.
Yeah, all right. I thought it was. I just didn't want to mistake that. So
yeah,
I find that fascinating. Is that a COVID thing, or is that a pre-COVID thing that you've nurtured and found?
No, that's an anytime thing. And I can't figure out, well, there's two things. I do think that there's something about me that puts people at ease on calls like that, and that we can, sort of have an understanding that this is a judgment-free zone, that I don't really care what you've done with your finances in the past, that why I wasn't involved in it. So it doesn't
Let me pause you. Provide me some context. Provide more context on that post I was talking about.
So I think it was a video that I did. When somebody comes to us and says, hey, I need a bookkeeper, hey, I need financial advice, or profit first implementation, whatever it is, one of the very first parts of the conversation, and you and Ryan did this the other day, we get on a call and I'm like, hey, I need to see your QuickBooks. Okay, you just opened up your whole world to me. Like, this is your whole business. These are numbers. We don't know each other from anything. I think there's a level of comfort knowing that I can sit on another side of a camera, and if you totally freaked out or you didn't want to do it, at the end of the day, you could click a button, close the Zoom call, and could ghost me forever and we'd never talk again. But if I was sitting in your office, and I compared this to financial advisors, because so many financial advisors were saying they were hesitant to go over Zoom, or they didn't want to go virtual or whatever. And I was doing it in saying that I think the conversations are actually easier because you're sitting there in the comfort of your studio. Somebody could be in the comfort of their own car when we're having these conversations. A lot of times people's dogs are running around, they're in their zone, and they're super free to think and be who they are. And they're not sitting in some uncomfortable financial office or in a waiting room and going, oh my God, are they going to offer me water? There's none of the whole rigmarole that goes with it. And I think because it is virtual, it's still an intimate setting, but it's not an intimidating one. And I think that where advisors who weren't willing to go out and be virtual, or insurance companies that weren't willing to be virtual, did lose business because of that. And frankly, they shouldn't take this out of their practice today. They shouldn't be oh, we're open back up, come back into the office. Keep reaching out to people in other states. Keep reaching out to people where they're at. Maybe that's their free time. Maybe that's their convenient time. I know when we meet with our advisor, my husband might be at work and I am here, or I could be traveling. We don't have to any longer be in one place to connect with the providers that we're working with. Obviously, we're having our hair done. It's totally different. But if we were doing marketing stuff, or I was doing anything, I can do it from anywhere and in the comfort of my own home or wherever I need to be. That was the context around it. I think because we're in such a comfort level, opening up and talking about finances becomes super easy. And money is something that people do not like to talk about.
Yeah, it caught my attention because not that I'm from a different generation than I think our folks are from. I don't really give a shit about that. If you're going to steal my stuff's out there, if someone's out there to try to steal my stuff, it's probably, I don't know. I'm not a hacker, but I imagine it's not that difficult to get someone's social security number these days.
No, probably not.
Yeah. I feel comfortable with it. And I find what you said to be so interesting. People guard this with everything, their business finances or their personal finances. And then you jump on a video call and it's people just throw it out there it's not a big deal, and it actually, the way you teed it up was it comes so much easier and the conversation flows. And to your point, we're comfortable, and it's no, Tracy, tell me what I need to know, and here it is, look at it, here's everything. And I love that.
Well, and it also frankly gets to the point a whole lot quicker too. It does say, hey, I immediately can look at something and in 2 seconds know exactly what you need. And it's going to move us on a lot further than saying, oh, well, I'll email you some P&Ls and then I can't ask questions. If you can just navigate me through, or, let me take over, I can go look for the 3 or 4 pieces of information that I need, and we're all right there. And I don't know, I guess I think it also shows that we do know how to move around your QuickBooks file, and that we're not idiots, and that we actually, do have specific processes in what we're looking at when we meet with those clients. But I think more people need to use virtual. Even there are still people I know that still refuse and that aren't comfortable with it. And I think they need to start getting uncomfortable if that's where they're at.
So on that, how has COVID, or did COVID open up more opportunity for Kantex? Just because you guys, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we boomed. Accounting services were one of the services. I mean, we're not CPAs, so we don't do tax, but we partner with CPAs all across the country and connect people with the right one based on either their industry or revenue levels, that kind of thing. The accounting cycle basically that just ended in May was basically 18 months long. So it was not only 2019's tax year and the extensions that went along with that, but immediately went into PPPs and idle loans and everything else and new extensions and the constant changing laws that changed even from one presidency to the other during COVID. Like accountants were super, super busy. And people who didn't have their act together and didn't have numbers and didn't know what they were doing and had no way to know if they could even get these loans or send the banks their information in order to even apply for them, they needed people like us to get it for them. So COVID was really, really good to us. And like I do joke that, we were doing virtual before virtual was cool, but it's completely saved our business. And I was frankly a little annoyed because then all the Zoom changed and all the security changed and all the bandwidth just completely got sucked out because everybody who had been in offices started tromping on our territory. And I was a little sad about that.
So what are you guys doing now? I know that I think it was during COVID that you guys opened a new office or at least started promoting that.
Yeah. So I had TLJ Consulting. That was my original practice. That was where I did everything. When I decided that I needed to grow, and as a service provider, we have one thing, we have time. And I know that I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I know that I don't want to work 40 hours a week. So in order to grow, I needed to bring on team members, and I had a couple, and I brought on a CFO for that role, and he was actually a contractor. He had his own company, and I really quickly figured out, I like this guy. He's exactly what my clients need, and he's exactly the person that can get me out of doing all the doing that I had going on. I could get out of some of the client-facing work that I didn't need to be doing. Like that was not my $10,000 an hour type of role. Like I needed to be growing the company and working on it, not in it. And when I asked him to come on full time, he said no and refused. And we kind of joke about this now, but I kept telling him like, okay, well, let me know when you change your mind because you're going to, like, this is what's happening. And again, I don't like to be told no. And I basically
good and humble.
It's true. I can basically manifest anything in my life that I want to have happen. And I was like, okay, well, just let me know. And I asked him a couple more times and he kept declining. And finally he called me one day and he goes, are you actually serious about this? And I'm like, well, yeah, I wouldn't have told you 4 times that you were going to come on and work full time for me. Growing his business wasn't going well. He is not a front-facing person. He's amazing at accounting and managing people and processes. He is not a marketer. He doesn't like to be on camera. He doesn't like to do social media. He likes none of that stuff. And so he said, well, hey, if you'll come and meet me, because he lives down in Texas, he's like, if you'll meet with me in person, because we'd never actually met face to face, I will consider coming on full time. So I said, okay. So I flew down to Dallas and met with him. And our conversation went from employee to, hey, I really want some kind of equity. I've always wanted to own my own business. And I really respect that. So we came up with a position that made sense and started a new firm. And then basically the types of clients that he was going to be working with, anything that came in like that from my sales calls went into the new company. I retained all my existing clients, and then sort of any of like the personal finance consulting, couples, personal finance, that kind of thing stays all on my original side. So we have a little bit of a balance, but he's got an equity ownership in Kantex, and it has just completely grown. I mean, we've more than tripled revenue since we started over what I was doing on my own.
Congrats. I mean, that's just awesome. When you're flying down there, do you have any idea that the equity conversation is coming up, or is this something you're thinking?
Yeah, I actually kind of put together like, what are all my options? What am I willing to do in order, like, how far do I want to go to bring this guy on to work for me? And I knew that he really, really wanted to own a business. So I figured that was probably going to be part of the conversation. So I just was really prepared going down in there and knowing what number I was willing to accept and what I wasn't. So, but I also knew at the end of the day, and I love him, like I love Justin, he's amazing. But I also wasn't going to leave Dallas without him agreeing to come on board. Like, sure. I knew that I needed somebody as committed as I was in order to grow the business. Like, you can have your team and you can depend on them and that kind of thing. But from my position, I needed somebody who was all in. Like if I just had an employee, they could quit at any time. It's going to be a little harder for him to back out of a partnership or something of that nature. And because I knew how badly he wanted to grow something, it just so far, like I said, has been a really good fit. He's exactly opposite of me, so it's perfect.
There's a couple things here that I love. First of all, no bullshit. This is the second time I've heard this I heard it on Friday. So this is the second, what's today? Tuesday. Second time I've heard this in like 4 days from a business owner who's basically said, I don't mean this to sound arrogant or cocky, but like when I need something, when I want something, I get it. And that's kind of just the way life works for me.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of fucking wild for me to hear that twice. Two,
that's also a mindset thing. We can talk about that later, but yeah, I get what I want. Like that's how life is.
I'm a huge fan of that. I love it. I think the other thing that I wanted to scratch at a little bit is this idea that people running a business, whether it's a 40-person business, a 200-person business, a 5-person business, think that their employees should care as much as they do is completely fucking asinine.
You can hire people who are amazing. You can get people that share your values. We have an extensive process that we go through when we hire, and we talk about our core values of our company. We talk about these same values with clients during their onboarding. So like our clients get the exact same information that our team members would. You can do that all day long. You can offer them money. You can give them incentives, whether it's financial or whatever type of incentives that drive those people. Because I've also learned that people are not money motivated. And I am. So I think that's really in my brain. I can't quite comprehend that. But some people are motivated by other things, like young millennials. Like I'm still one. So young millennials love time off. Like that is their love language. It's not necessarily bonuses or 401k matching. Like they don't really give a shit about any of that stuff. Like they just want time and space. So you can have all those things. But yeah, they can still walk away because somebody's going to go offer them one more day off a month, or somebody's going to offer them a cooler laptop. Like they can quit for any reason. Like I needed somebody that was all in on what we were doing.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to that.
And shared those values too. I mean, again, there was no question in like what kind of values I needed if I was going to share equity with somebody. Like that was a very big decision for me.
As it should be. I think that that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Like, how do you decide when it's time to scale like that? Like, because you're giving something up, you've built something, and then you're handing it off.
I think because I value my time so much, and I know that eventually I would love for my business just to sort of run in the background, and maybe I go start something else. Like I am kind of a serial entrepreneur. I'm working on something else right now that I'm hoping opens in the fall. I have a fourth company that's kind of on the back burner as well. Like it's just in planning mode. Like I have other aspirations in life that I want to do. So I knew that I just needed to scale this to a point where I don't have to be in it. This is what I teach business owners how to do. I teach them how to not be in their business, but yet create the value. So that way when they exit, and all business owners exit, whether you die, get bored, leave, medical emergency, family emergency, you have to go somewhere, the business should still continue to run and make money for you. Mm-hmm. That to me was the thing that I knew that if I was going to scale and do that I had to bring extra people on and really start growing our team. And there was a long conversation around this. Like my husband and I, we'd actually talked about this for a long time. He's like, you don't have to do anything different. Like you don't have to grow. You're at a point where you have what you need. I mean, I guess if that's the case, why, what is the point in growing? And when it came down to it, like, I just want to help more people, and I can't help more people by myself.
Walk me through
scaling and then getting it out of it and getting out of the business at the same time also helps me help more people.
Yeah. And I think people, it's not that I think they become too attached to it, but you're looking at this thing as a business. It's not a child. Like you can figure something out with it and move on and do something out and try other things. Like if this whole thing goes to shit, or if it goes to the moon, like it's an object.
Yeah. And I love it. It's so much fun. And I enjoy working with the people that we work with, but I have other ways that I want to go help people. Like I have other things that I want to do. Like when I say that like personal finance is like my favorite thing in the entire world, working specifically with couples that own businesses, whether they're in the same one or separate ones, that kind of thing. Because I know what that feels like and I know what that looks like, and I've seen business owners go through like really tragic things financially and not understanding what's happening with money, and one spouse is on board with things and the other spouse is not, like that causes horrible marriage fights and divorce. And I don't want people to go through that. I want them to have a business that actually supports their lifestyle and not the other way around.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like it. Walk me through this. I get what I want.
Always.
Yeah, let's extrapolate that. Let's talk about it.
I guess I don't know what to say about it. Like I guess
you said a minute ago we could talk more about it.
We could talk about it. Like when I set my mind to something, like that's just what I'm getting. Like I don't back down. I don't take no for an answer. I don't know. Like I guess it's all
so someone
kind of
listening could take this and be like, well, that's fucking arrogant. That's a cocky thing to say. But
probably
I know
it's true.
I don't think it comes from a place of that. So I'd love to know more about it.
I guess
determined will.
Yeah, I've always been driven. I had a boss, one of my very first bosses out of college. I was interviewing. I was going through a staffing agency, and I had just moved to Lawrence from Manhattan. So I went to K-State and was moving to Lawrence, needed to get a job. And the staffing agency was like, we've been having a really hard time placing somebody with this company. And they kind of like said, the owner's kind of an asshole. And, I was like, bring it on. Like, I have worked like with people like this, like personalities don't bother me. I have a very strong personality. Like nobody's going to walk all over me. So I walk in and we're sitting there in the interview. And the first thing he says to me, he goes, Tracy, he goes, I'm going to need you to read my mind. And I go, okay. And he goes, really? I go, yeah, I could probably do that. And he's like, you're hired. That was our entire interview. There wasn't anything else. But my goal, I knew at that point, was I had to start anticipating every move that he was going to make, anything that he needed, be able to navigate, again, a really, really messy husband and wife situation that totally blew up. That was actually really bad. But I eventually got to the point where I could tell him everything that was going on, when he needed it, before he needed to know it. Like, I just made that my goal. Like when I was in college, my very first accounting job. So I actually was an English major in college. This is actually something I don't tell people because nobody ever asks. Like, I was working at a landscaping company, and the office manager, which at the same time was like the bookkeeper or whatever, I was just like cleaning the offices, and I would sit down with her in the afternoons and chat with her because I just loved her. And I was like, what is this QuickBooks thing that you're doing? So this is like back in 2001. And she would teach me like how to do invoicing and how to, do everything, all their accounting for their landscaping company. I thought, oh, this is really cool. It makes sense. Like I'm a very linear thinker. So accounting just makes sense to me. And I started taking some accounting classes, and the owner goes, well, she had left the job, and he's like, well, I need to hire an office manager. And I was like, I can do it. And he's like, no, you can't. You don't know anything about this. And I said, give me 2 weeks and I'll prove it that I can do this. And 2 weeks later, I showed him that I could do it, and he gave me the job. And like, I guess it's just that kind of mentality. Like if somebody says that I need to do something, I'm going to put my mind to it and I'm going to figure it out. Like I'm very resourceful. I understand things. And so I guess anything I've ever wanted, I've always got.
Do you think that's, one, that's just being driven and determined. I get that. But like you said something a minute ago, like, do you think that's you having a good pulse on what's in front of you? Like you can read people, so you can kind of tell, like when you make a statement like that or a decision, like you kind of can play the outcome because you can see the moves that need to take place?
I have this like, I don't know if it's like a crazy like intuition or what it is.
I believe in this shit, so I don't think it's crazy.
I think that there are like vibes between people, circumstances, instances, and it's not just like in person. Like I could meet and have a conversation with somebody. In fact, this will be fun for you. I think it was one of the first or second times I watched your guys' like little advisor show, and I was like, oh, I'll be on that show. And then I think I'm going to be on it in 2 weeks. Like I put myself in a position to make it happen, and again, was just going to get it done. Like we didn't talk about it. We didn't have a conversation about it. I didn't say, hey, I'd really like to do this. It sounds really cool. Like it was brought to me. Like I think that there are just like vibes in the world, and I can pick up on them. I can sense them. I can feel them when we talk to clients for like sales calls. I have like a 98% close rate for sales. I will know almost every single time, and it's very few times that I get it wrong. The second that someone will be closing, or when it's going to happen, or what somebody's rejection is going to be, like I can just bypass all of that. And so we don't have to go through the conversation. So I don't know if it's just my intuition and my drive put together that get this, but I mean, this has come from anything. This has been like from who I want to be friends with, or rooms that I want to be in, or boards that I want to be on, or anything. Like I just received an award a couple of weeks ago, and it was amazing. And it was the like Women-Owned Business of Distinction Award. And when I was nominated for it, I was like, oh, I'll win this. And I did. We were at a wine dinner the other night, and they were giving away free wine. I go, oh, I'll win that. And I looked at my husband. He goes, what, are you manifesting it? And I said, I am. And I won. Like, if there is something I really want to get it. I don't know how it comes up. Maybe I'm just magic.
No, I mean, a few times maybe the wine one we'll call lucky. That's a lucky one. No, I don't.
But it was pretty ironic. I mean, it worked out.
Look, I have twin 6-year-olds, right? And totally different personalities. Like you could not tell they're brothers by looks either. So, but one of them has the gift of self-awareness, right? He's very aware. He can read a room. He understands people are, even at 6, you can understand when people are uncomfortable. He can gauge, and I can tell because it's a trait that I share with him. My other one has, which I don't know if it's equally as good because it causes a lot less anxiety and stress, where he goes in carefree and doesn't give a fuck about how people are feeling and just is himself and has fun and plays and does his thing. And like, he doesn't care that, so-and-so looks like they're annoyed. But I believe in that stuff. I think, I don't know if what you're explaining is a high level of self-awareness, but I think that plays into it. Knowing, like, are you the kind of person that can walk into a room and who's what just by their body language, who's uncomfortable, who's doing what, who's got an agenda here? Yeah.
And I think my insane self-awareness, like, is something that has served me very, very well. Like I think because I know myself so well and can tell like what I would be doing in a situation, I can tell what other people like in general are thinking.
That's the thing though, Tracy. Like I feel like we call it self-awareness, which is we understand what we're thinking, but it allows you to understand what others are also putting out, which is kind of crazy. So it's like others awareness.
Yeah, and you can just listen. Like I think I'm a good listener. Like you can hear conversations or questions, and I feel like I can tell if someone's like trying to lead someone down, a trail or what they're trying to get out of them. And I think because a lot of times I can call it out, people are generally surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I think it's I don't know. I like it. I think it's a real trait.
I think I'm such a no BS kind of girl. Like I think I can hang with anybody. I've always said that I would fit in better like at a frat house and a sorority. Like I just grew up with brother and all of his guy friends and took a lot of stuff from them all the time and kind of just learned to hold my own. And it has served me really well as an entrepreneur. And I think it's one of the ways that I can talk to people about their finances so clearly without attachment, because I really don't care what somebody does with their money. Like if I have clients all the time that are like, oh, here back to last week. I'm so sorry. There's just such a mess. Like, I know it's bad. I know I should know what's going on. I had a client today. We got an invoice for $190,000 for them. And I sent the client a message and said, hey, like, how are we paying this? There's no money, whatever. And they had no idea that they had even racked up a $190,000 invoice with this provider that they're like, I don't care.
That must have been a fun call.
Like, I'm not judging them over it. Like, it's not my problem, but I will fix it for them. Like, I will tell them, here's how you can do it. Here's what needs to happen. Like all of that. But I have zero attachment to what somebody does with their money. So it really is like a judge-free kind of thing. So, yeah.
I want to give you some of your evening back because we're coming up here on an hour. But what are your thoughts on crypto?
I have zero thoughts on crypto. I think it sounds like play money that I don't know anything about. I've not looked at it. I've not researched it. It looks wild. I see a lot of postings about it. I have friends that are into it. I have a couple of clients that are really into it. And I think until there's more understanding or regulation or understanding how you can actually spend it. I mean, after sort of Tesla dropped it, after Bitcoin stuff, I mean, it's a little too volatile for me to want to jump into. Like, I like the idea of it, but I'm also a little more even keeled. And I kind of like to sit back and watch how things play out before I decide if I want to jump on board. I also have been a little busy. I just don't have a lot of time to sit around to figure it out because I just don't care that much. Like, I don't know. I figure if like it becomes really important, my advisor will let me know. Like that's what we pay him for. So I want somebody to come to me and say, "Hey, Tracy, this is really where you guys need to be investing," and give me a legit reason why. But I don't understand it.
It's a fair answer. I'm not mad at it. Number one hobby outside of work is golf. Is that a fair assumption?
Definitely. Golf.
What kind of a handicap are we looking at?
So I only started golfing a year and a half ago, and I won the award for the biggest drop in handicap. So I went from a 36 at the beginning of last session to a 21. And had it not been for a horrible injury that has sidelined me for like 9 months now, I feel like I could have been down in like the 15 range at this point. So I'm getting back to it, getting it dropped. I'd love to be a scratch golfer. Like that's the goal.
Wouldn't we all?
But I will, because that's what I'm going to do. It might take me a year and a half or two, but that's why I take off work and go golf. Like I want to be really good. I want to go beat everybody at our club.
How much are you playing? How often are you getting out?
So now I'm only out a couple of times a week. I was golfing 6 days a week before my surgery in February on my foot. So,
oh, good for you. Yeah. That'll take 15 strokes off.
Well, the putting and chipping itself that I actually can do right now, that has taken off tremendous strokes. I think I'm an excellent green reader, so that helps a lot.
That's the part of the game. I was talking to my brother. My brother texted me today. He's like, got a new driver shaft. I'm looking to go from a 13 to a 10 handicap. And I was like, yeah, the shaft is what it is. I'm sure that's.
Though I did get a new set of clubs. I definitely think it helped. I do think that equipment does matter, but you're not buying yourself a handicap. That's for sure.
Matters to a point.
It is helpful. I was using like graphite shafts, which I swing way too hard for. And then when I got steel shafts, it was amazing how much straighter the ball actually went because it wasn't flying all over the place because I was hitting it too hard on floppy graphite.
Yeah, no, but once you reach,
like stuff like that is important.
Yeah. But I'm with you.
But no, what else like you got? The brand doesn't matter, stuff like that. So
what other kind of bullshit you want to talk about?
Gosh, I don't know. What do you want to know? I mean, people seem to think that I read? I read this thing the other day that I'm complicated. I don't really understand what that was about. So I feel like all I am is a business owner who is super driven and wants everything she wants in life and will go get it. Like I think that's fun. Besides golf, like I said, I'm working on a couple of other businesses with 2 different girlfriends. Completely different, not anywhere in the accounting or service industry. So one of them might be bourbon related. So that could be fun. And actually, what's really interesting? So we met on social media or whatever. And the people that I have conversations with on LinkedIn, I think we joked one time that like bourbon posts like get tons of action on them. I have so many gals and guys in my like DMs that like send me pictures of their like sellers, like wine sellers and bourbon sellers, like, hey, did you get this one? I'll ship you this one. Like this has become this whole like underground, like financial advisors love bourbon kind of thing. And we have all of these amazing conversations about it. So I think it like, when we talk about like just like connecting with people on social media and you always talk about like being real and like being yourself and like authentic, the most authentic conversations are happening in like direct messages based on posts. Like people aren't having them in the comments. They are sending you notes and it's like this whole new world. Like I had somebody, it was like, hey, I'll come to your birthday party. And I'm like, it was just like,
you're not invited.
He's like, send us an invite. He's like, my wife and I'll come. And I'm like, that would be amazing. Like I would totally meet these people in person. Like, I don't know. I think it's just some of the connections and things like that's kind of a hobby too. Like just amazing who you can meet and what can come out of a one little post that's just like, hey, this is what I'm doing today.
I think LinkedIn has really opened up the world for this 35 or 30 to 55-year-old community on social media. Like, and COVID was kind of like steroids to force everyone there. And it has, I mean, I can speak for myself. I think I have more friends in North Carolina now than I do in Philly, just from talking to all the advisors I've met who, like, I know when I go to Charlotte who to call. There's a dozen of these guys down there that I'm now pals with.
Yeah. So no, it's been really great. And I think even just through other conversations are like, oh, well, you need to meet such and such. I think that they need your help. Like they've given me referrals and I've sent people to them. Like it's just been but I think like legit, like I'm friends with these people. Like we could go and hang out and be like real life best friends if we lived in the same city.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there could be a 2020 like summit put together where everyone just comes together because they're all friends.
You know, that could be really fun. We could actually like set that up.
Could manifest it.
But I have to want it. So, okay. So that's the other thing. It's not a matter of like, just like, oh, this is just going to happen. I have to like say, this is something I want. I'm not going to take no for an answer. So it's not just, oh, Corey, I think you're going to go win a new car tomorrow. Like nothing like that. Like it's, do I really want it? Is it something that's important to me? And if it is, I will have it.
Yeah, I wasn't confused that you were thinking you were psychic versus someone who's
just in case anyone was unclear. It's nothing like I can't just magically like win the lottery tomorrow. I'd actually have to play the lottery in order to win it. Like, but no, that's yeah. No, this is fun. Thank you for having me and hanging out.
Yeah, I'm glad to chat. These things are sometimes a pain to do at night, but I find them a lot more casual.
I feel like any kind of podcast conversation is casual. It's like I have a podcast and people are always like, Tracy, can you send me the questions? And I recorded one and the guy said after we were done, and it actually plays this week, and he goes, you didn't ask me any of those questions that you sent me. And I said, I know. He's like, well, then why did you send them to me? He goes, I said, well, because you asked. I just said that you asked me to send you questions. Those are the questions, but I knew that wasn't going to be the conversation that we had because I don't want like pre-prepped and planned and get people that are actually just reading responses. I want to have an actual conversation, and nobody wants to listen to something that's, preempted or scripted. So I send a whole list of questions, but they're actually nothing on my agenda of what I want to ask somebody. So it comes as a surprise often.
Yeah, I think that's how the best content's made, is just, I wanted to talk to you, get to know more about you, shoot the shit, learn, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, I don't care. I enjoyed it. So
I think they'll enjoy it. I think this was fun, and we can do it again sometime and chat about how things have expanded in your world, even now that you guys are starting to grow and bring on all your clients. So it's kind of cool.
Hey, that's a deal. Thank you for
love it
for chatting with me.
Yeah, thanks, Corey.
Cool. You good?
Yay. Yep.
Cool. I got nothing.
That was really fun. Got nothing. Well, cheers.
Yeah, cheers. I've got an empty plastic glass here, cup.
I went very slow on my wine, so that way it would make it the entire time. And
why? You could have just been like, I'm going to go refill.
No, I can't do that. I would have brought bourbon back if I'd have done that. It's 9 o'clock.
You just said we got to take the formality out of this thing.
I had a long day today. I had tomorrow off, which I'm very excited about. So that'll be good.
I thought you took Tuesdays and Fridays off.
Well, I do, but tomorrow, because we took Monday off, I didn't take today off because I had to be on site with a client. Tomorrow, we're going and picking out our suite for football for K-State. So that'll be fun. Bunch of friends. We're all going together and getting this suite. And then Friday, I am off, but my new CPA starts on Thursday, and I'm super pumped.
Sweet. Busy week.
So very busy week. So I'm still taking my days off, but just not the same ones. And it was completely soaked today. Like there was no chance I was golfing anyhow. So, which sucked. Well, I got smoked by somebody who's never even golfed at Topgolf yesterday.
I don't think I can take that stuff seriously. Like I'm not in the right frame of mind when I'm there.
No, it was certainly a social thing, and it's watching, frankly, the other people around you that are playing, and the people that bring their own clubs to Topgolf are my favorite. So it's like, do you think someone from like the PGA is going to show up and like bring you on because you hit a drive at Topgolf? Or like, I don't know what they think they're getting out of that. You've got this 300, like 100-yard wide fairway that you're hitting into. Nobody thinks you're impressive. And I don't know what you need to bring your own clubs for. Like, take the shitty ones that they have and the beer that they have and enjoy it and be with your friends. I mean, this little 4-year-old next to me kept hitting it in the little circle. I couldn't hit it to save my life. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not real. Like, it's just a social fun thing. Like, but then the guy that, brings his own clubs and they've got them all set there and everything. Come on, give me a break. I can't do that.
Oh, Tracy. Judgment.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean,